As Gray Jedi, we learn to balance points within ourselves of, as many call, the dark and light side of the Force. Well, that is where the Jedi and Gray disagree, if I'm being honest. And in that, the dark and the light are what is within each of us. And though this is also in the difference of where Gray, we see this philosophy differently. And one of the ways that makes the dark side so tempting to fall to is when one has learned the techniques to become a participant in with the dark side and allowing that within them to emerge. We allow this in moments that we then become the storm within the Force. And in that, we have to have our intelligence and our emotional and our mental faculties in place. And what I mean is the inner balance that a Gray Jedi seeks to maintain on a daily basis. And this is where, when a Gray Jedi learns to manage themselves when they are in lieu with the dark side, that they can keep in mind that through their training and from it, that if faithful to it, will not fall to the dark side. And then afterwards, in the realization, have to seek redemption or never broach on becoming and practicing the path of a Gray Jedi again. Now, when one learns the technique and the practice of harnessing the dark side within themselves, they can become a storm within the Force, in the physical sense of that they have allowed themselves to touch the dark side in a very deeply way. And so, in doing so, they are keeping in mind that they are also in partner with the light side, but they have allowed themselves to let the dark side within them become more present and prevalent in its execution and use of the Force. Is that we let the emotions, coupled with the living Force and the universal in all three aspects, embridle within that anger, that rage, the resentment, everything negative, and keeping in mind one center. We are, as a person, the center of the storm in maintaining that inner balance while immersed in the dark side. And this is an effort that is never to be taken lightly. We weigh options to avoid this action simply because of the consequences and the responsibility it bears. But if we are of mind and spiritually fit, we can manage this with hopefully as minimal damage to those involved, people that we may care about, people we may love and have a relationship with. But this is only done into correcting a wrong. There is a retribution when an action like this is taken towards the person who has caused harm. But we do this in a manner to where if the person who has been the inflictor is shown very little mercy or grace in the action established upon them in retribution and in a vengeful way. But part of us also hopes that during the justice being sought, also is in reminder, if it is absolutely necessary, to end a person's existence and their physical being, but allowing the hopefully what's left of the light side and the good in them will go to the force. And this is a step that is never taken lightly, but it was done with total commitment, total focus, and a reminder that stays within our minds that this is always going to be for the better. And the living force has asked for this action. And where the light side Jedi would see this as a merciless act of issuing justice without fairness. And this is where that difference of thought and philosophy varies. And this is where also a respect from the gray Jedi towards the light side Jedi, that we walk in two different schools and live in two different schools. We are amongst and foremost anything above all Jedi. And that's never a forgotten aspect of Jediism in this realm and in this practice and this faith and this walk. It's just that gray Jedi are more highly disciplined in this application within themselves. And so the passion that lies within this is the drive and focus and purpose to maintain balance within ourselves. And we use that as the example of those happenings around us, if necessary. And we bear this responsibility greatly, deeply, and in a way defines how we see things, how prudent our actions would be, how respectful our actions would be, consideration of compassion and empathy, and in some way a understanding. We understand that all things are to be treated with respect. And I believe in some way gray might hold a deeper aspect because we are embracing both sides, the dark side and the light, the yin and the yang. You cannot have one without the other, and one shall never thrive without the other, but we must not allow one to thrive any greater or more so than the other. The light and the dark are always at odds, but always in unison, always in relationship. We seek passion, yet we also seek peace. We also seek knowledge, and with knowledge is we gain the experience of balance. With that internal balance, we are understanding and embracing the dark side without forgetting that we are still Jedi and that we also do still serve the light, but we are also allowing ourselves to go past a point that light side Jedi are trained to not do. And it's nothing held against the light side Jedi in any way. It's that in many ways, one can learn to become a gray, but there are those that are already chosen to be there and have a instinctual way to be able to understand the balance within ourselves with guidance we learn from different mentors in order to be able to harness that moment that we have allowed ourselves to let the dark side carry out. But in this, we also consider the relationships we hold dear. What are going to be the repercussions? What are going to be the consequences I will endure after this? And in this, in becoming a storm, we also keep in mind compassion, empathy, understanding. But in that, we also understand that the person or a person or entities, that being person, that be otherwise spiritual, that our intent is to still serve a greater purpose for the well-being of others and for those that suffer. And that as it's viewed by one aspect, that it is a complete act of selfish vengeance. But the question I ask is, if one is using such intent with purpose and negative emotions feeding and allowing them to thrive and flourish and run rampant, but doing it for good, is that really a dark side action? It's for the greater. And this is always what we keep in mind, because the Jedi, and as Jedi, we always serve the greater. And that's part of a gray will stop at nothing to uphold that. Grace and mercy are always kept in mind, and with that compassion and understanding. But we venture into this with great reserve, and this being our last action before all other actions have failed. This is not an action of allowing ourselves to participate with the dark side. It's never taken lightly as a lightly decision, but we weigh what our actions can truly bring and to what detriment they may cause. Though this is a very grim aspect, it's never grim. It's for a positive reason when we have to become that storm. But again, this is only as a last resort, or it's to equal the playing field. We meet the enemy on their own home, on their own home ground. On our terms. But in this, we are always keeping in mind with the knowledge and experiences and training that we've received and the passions to maintain. We also carry that knowledge, because that's what keeps one from falling if they are in still reminder that they shall never lose sight of the light side. And those that lose sight of that fall. But the storm is, in a way, a final mastery. It's knowing that we are also the center, but we are wielding the force around us and also within it, and us within the storm. We are the proprietor of it. And with that, we are still maintaining balance within ourselves. We could not allow each side of us to flourish over more so than the other. And this is where the storm is so powerful. Because we also keep in mind that this is also for the better and for the protection of others. This is the nobility in it. And in one version of the code, through passion, I gain strength. We gain strength from our passion because of our motives, our purpose, our reasons. And this allows us, with that strength, also to not fall, to not allow ourselves to fall, to not remain in the dark side, in that darker part of ourselves. In our emotions with those we care about, life, people, are also those reminders because of our passion to also help protect and keep those relationships. And while we're in the storm, and are part of that storm and are the storm, we also carry the wisdom and knowledge that has been passed down, passed forth, and our innate instincts with it, and the internal knowledge that has developed from training that allows with the flow. So, in essence, we are that living and walking storm daily. It's just when is the time that the force calls upon us to unleash it, knowing the consequences, responsibilities we carry with it. And that is life. And we gain that power, devastating, harmful hatred, resentment, anything we despise, we become that. But we also gain power over it. We use this power we've gained as the strength. But we are also maintaining peace